Welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Show with Ryan Greenberg and Nick Kalfas. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Millionaire Show. We are here, Nick and I, in one of the last episodes in the basement, and then we're moving to our new office, which is going to be pretty sweet. So
Perfect.
I'm excited about that.
Me too.
My wife is excited to get us the hell out of our
Is she?
basement.
Does she do anything down here, though?
Turn your damn phone off, man. Goodness gracious.
Does she do anything down here, though?
No.
Besides, I guess you guys do laundry down here, right?
Yeah, but, just like people coming in and out of the house.
You guys going to put a laundry room in your addition when you build it upstairs?
We talked about it, but probably not.
Yeah, I wouldn't even build it if I were you.
Build the addition?
Yeah.
Well, you could tell her that. All right, so we are going to play with...
First, espressos.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you for these things.
Yeah, we do.
This is my first espresso, and it's pretty plain.
Yeah, it is pretty plain, but they do the job. You know, when you work all day, you got to put out this content at
What's
night.
that?
Dude, I've been working. I am actually now managing projects again in the company. I'm back on the streets.
Oh, is that because whatchamacallit had to take over?
Yeah, Cody's taken over Carla's position, and then I took basically some projects back from him, and then I hired like a new assistant PM, assistant project manager, but like they don't really know anything, so it's still like me managing the project.
Yeah.
But they're just running around, and I still have to take FaceTime calls and answer questions and all that stuff. So I'm like fully back in the swing. I was driving the trailer. I went to the dump today.
Dang, you should have took a video.
Yeah, I should have, but...
Have you ever tried hiring a VA?
Well, we have like people in the office working. That's not really the problem. It's really the on the ground, like people that really know what they're doing from start to finish on a project that's the hardest position to fill.
Yeah, but isn't that what Cody was doing? And if you could just put like
but we're
someone
like
else in that position.
Yeah, and we are hiring another person, but we're doing the full transition to Appfolio right now too, which is a nightmare. There's so much data that you have to put in because remember, you guys did Appfolio, but you own all of them. I have to enter in all of the owner information.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
It's a whole
task.
nother
Nother
thing.
job.
Yeah, so he's really good on the computer and he's handling all that stuff. But yeah, so I stepped back out in the field and just trying to like get everything done. And I have Tatiana, who's great, and she's doing things in the field. But again, they're all new. So like there's only a couple. Tyler and I are basically the only two that really know how to get a project from start to finish without, crazy headaches. So
how did it feel to be back in the truck?
Dude, it feels good, honestly. But I not for long.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't want to. I noticed that I'm not doing as many like estimates. I'm not, doing lunches and trying to get deals and not selling houses. Like,
yeah, it's not bad, but it certainly limits your time to take care of those high dollar tasks.
A couple months ago, I was like out showing, investment properties, getting estimates on investment properties for people, and now I'm just managing projects. So then that's a whole thing that I'm not driving around looking at properties, estimating them for investors. Instead, I'm trying to manage them. So it's
the one on Kenyon that you guys saw, did that investor like that property?
The one that was turnkey?
Yeah.
No. I thought it was good. If I wasn't buying a couple other ones right now, that would have been a good property just to buy and have 20 grand in. Like for me, if I have like 20 grand in a property and it's making me $400 or $500 a month, like that's a pretty good deal. Like,
yeah, it's a good cash on cash return.
I think one of the things that on ChatGPT here that I was like, what are some topics that we can discuss? Oh no, what did I write here? What are some ways to increase your active income? Because one of the investors that Marcus was actually showing properties to today, that I kind of gave Marcus, this guy who's trying to buy properties. The problem is he has like X amount of money saved up to buy the properties, but he doesn't have a lot of active income. So he's afraid to get much money stuck in the deal, right? Which makes total sense. But what we did was we increased our active income.
Yeah.
And then you can use that active income, that extra income. So if you ask ChatGPT, how can you increase your active income? One, develop new skills. Acquiring new skills that are in demand can help you command a higher salary or an hourly wage, consider taking courses, certifications, attending workshops, developing new skills. I think this too, it's just like you can go out and in the industry that you're already in and take side work,
Yeah.
like, one of the guys that do our handyman stuff, he's a maintenance manager at a like apartment building and he does side jobs for us.
Yeah. And number 2 is negotiate a raise or demand it. And I hope my employees aren't listening to this right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
That's what I did literally when I had, W-2 jobs back in the day at the restaurant when I started out as a dishwasher. Me and my buddy Andrew got a job there the same time, and I ended up getting paid more from doing the same task because I literally demanded it through my work ethic and then also just asking for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain point where they might say no.
Oh yeah, I mean,
but
as a dishwasher, you can only pay so much.
Yeah.
At the time, I started out at $5.15 an hour, and then I think I got up to like $8 an hour as a dishwasher, and that was like pretty good for a dishwasher back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting a raise or just figuring out like another stream of income. I feel like that's the best way to do it. Like, yeah, you're trying to build, like we could take this guy's, I'm not going to say his name, but we take this guy's situation, like he's got, let's say a job that pays, I don't know how much it is, but let's just say it's $50,000 a year. And if you made $70,000 a year, you can buy one extra property per year and get some money stuck in. Because right now, guys, like burr deals are really freaking hard. You're either going to leave money in the deal and cash flow, or you're not going to cash flow. That's the options you have, right? So like we're doing a job, a property on Pratt Street that we bought with the intention of getting $30,000 stuck in that deal. Like we know at the end, but we'll cash flow $600 to $800.
Yeah.
That's an okay deal for me for 30 grand. Some people are, new investors that are just starting out that have a W-2 that don't have, some money that they can get stuck in the deal. It's really, really hard right now.
So what, in your opinion, what's a good cash on cash return
So
on that type of deal when you have to leave money in it?
it's so hard though, because for me, what my thing is, my buy box is, and I think I've said this before, it's less than 10% in the deal or at 10% in the deal after it's all said and done, and a higher than 10% cash on cash return. That to me is a good deal. But also we are, buying properties using a lot of active income from the construction company. So I don't mind getting 20, 30 grand stuck in some of these deals, and we can still keep moving the meter. Some people may have only 50,000 saved up or 30,000 saved up. So if they get that money stuck in, they literally have to wait for that $500 cash flow to pay it back.
Yeah.
Before they can buy the next one, which is tough for new investors. And I think it's going to be tough for new investors during this time if you don't have a very high active income. That's why I put this question in there.
Yeah, and I think the more properties that I buy and the more quote unquote passive income that I create, the more active income I want to make.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, that's what I focused on. I think a lot of people, including you, like you were like really focused on buying a lot of properties, which is great. It worked out great for you now, but I focused more on buying properties with that money that we were making from the businesses. Like we bought properties first, built the business around it. And that's, something that anybody can do. It's like if you have something that's like a hobby or whatever, you can build a business around it. I mean, Marcus is a realtor. He's a video guy, camera guy. Like you can do multiple things. I think you can also kind of you could do like essentially subcontracting stuff where as long as you have like connections in some sort of industry, you can always make extra money. Like making money, I should have like a whole course on like stupid ways that I've made money in the past.
And you can make monies multiple ways, but you should, if you do decide to, branch off and do different things here and there, it should be within that same field that you're in. Like you said, like Marcus, he's a real estate agent and he's a videographer and he can take photos. So he can go out and take photos of listings. He can help us here with the podcast. So that's all tied into, real estate.
Yeah, and also just working more too. Like there's no excuse for just if you
Yeah, who needs sleep?
I mean, you don't but the thing is like if you just work a couple extra hours a week on something, um like my wife is a teacher, but she's also a tutor and a private lacrosse coach. She makes an extra 250 bucks or whatever a week doing that, which is a quarter of her salary.
Hmm.
She's getting an extra 25% of her salary just by working like 3 hours extra.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse for, if you're like, oh, I got to buy the perfect deal in order to keep buying deals. Like right now, that might not exist. You might need to leave some money in these deals or you're not going to cash flow.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's one of the questions I had here. What do you think of the Burr method of real estate investing with high interest rates? And what I would say to that is, if the deal still like I'm running every deal now. I mean, as we just saw it, I got a quote just now for 7.5% on a 30-year fixed investment property in an LLC, investment loan in LLC, and you have to run deals now at 7.5, and as they go up, maybe 8%. And if the cash flow is at 8%, then you can still take that deal down and then just refinance it. Hopefully, in a couple of years when Trump gets back in office.
Oh God, here we go. We just turned into a political podcast. No, I think that if you're running your numbers at 7.5, 8, and it makes sense, great. But I think one of the biggest things is you got to figure out how to make a deal happen because there's just not a lot of inventory. So like all the people are like, oh, there's no deals out there. Well, you got to figure out either how to get the construction done cheap, like we have built a construction company just so we can get construction done cheap. You need to find better deals, so use data companies like Pinpoint Skip or whatever to find more deals that are off market, that are direct to seller, so you can get a better deal. But something you got to do something. You can't just expect to go on the MLS, find a good deal, or you got to make lowball offers. You got to make 50 lowball something. You got to do something. You can't just go out and buy good property
Yeah,
right
and
now.
you have to do a lot of something, right? You can't just do it one time, two times, and expect a
Right.
result to come from it.
Yeah, yeah, especially like cold calling and that kind of thing from like these data lists. Like, you might get 200 calls, 300 calls out before you get one locked in. And that's super discouraging. But if you're just starting out and that's the only way to get your first property because you can't afford something on the MLS, then that's what you got to do. I also tell people, like, don't tell me you can't find a deal. How many, if you haven't made any offers? Like, there's one of our clients, it's like, oh, there's just nothing out there. And I'm like, how many offers have you made? Like, there are houses that are out there if you just go right offers. Like the one of the deals that I'm taking down now, I went out to quote it for a renovation. They were going to hire me to renovate it because they were going to sell it. And I was like, I'll just buy it myself. I'll just make you an offer. And they took it. So if
Yeah.
you're not making offers on things, like we're buying that building in Fells, like we just made an offer and they took it. So if you're not making offers, then you're not doing enough.
So, what is the best way to invest in real estate with little to no money?
Right now, I think that's going to be tough, honestly. I don't want to say there's like a magic way. Like no money is not, I don't know that that's possible to have a cash flowing property. I mean, it's possible. Obviously, anything's possible. You get a great deal on something. But, to get a cash flowing property with no money down right now is really tough.
Yeah. So
I,
I guess I would say if there's someone out there that has little money, maybe they have, more than obviously no money, go the FHA route, 3.5% down, get a duplex, triplex, fourplex,
yeah.
rent the other
That's
units
that's a
out,
great way
or
to
just house
start if
hacking.
you're just trying to start right. House
Yeah.
hack, yeah. I mean, that's the only really way to do it with little money down. But even FHA, you need 3.5% down.
Yeah. So that's still, and then I guess if you wanted to go to zero wholesaling, right? I mean, a lot of wholesalers, they do market a lot and
But
they
that's
do
not
spend money.
investing.
Yeah, that's not investing. That's more of an active way
It's a job.
yeah, that's a job. Real estate agent's a job. Flipping houses is a job also. So
But
they're.
yeah, I mean, I think flipping houses is a job, but you hire contractors and whatever else, so it's a little bit more passive. But like wholesaling, you never actually own the assets; you're just
Yeah.
flipping the contract. So that's not really.
But that could be a gear to get you involved in real estate investing because then you start to understand the contracts. You start to understand why someone's buying a property for X amount when you had it under contract for less, and you can start getting involved with everybody in that industry, in the real estate industry.
Yeah, I just think also like I said it, I'm gonna say it again, but go make more money.
Yeah.
And just be able to get 15,000 stuck in the deal, 20,000 stuck in the deal. To go out and hustle and make 20 grand, like you could do that in a summer. You know, you can go bartender, you can go valet cars, you could do anything at nights on weekends and make an additional $20,000. Especially some of these like tip job, like dude, when
Hmm.
I was valet parking when I was in college, we would make 300-400 bucks a night sometimes. You could easily save up if you have a regular job that's 9 to 5 that's paying your bills already. Go get a second job at night. In 3 months, you'll have that 20,000, and then that 20,000 will be hopefully making you 500 in cash flow. You
Yeah.
just put 20. You could start doing that with just putting 20% down on these $100,000 houses that are in Baltimore that are rent ready. Like the one I showed you the other day, it was 121. What's that? Let's see. What would that be? It was 121,000 bucks. If you were to buy that with an F, you could do 5%
6,000,
conventional.
6,500,
Yeah, 6,000 plus
6,050.
closing costs. So less than just let's just call it 10 grand. You own a house and you can rent down a room. You can move out of that house in a year or whatever. And you can buy the next one with
Hmm.
another 20 grand. And so there's no really excuse on why you're not doing it. It's just people are just lazy, honestly. I think that's a big reason. It's like you're either too scared to get into it or
They don't know enough.
you don't know enough. But then I would say the best way to do it is invest in yourself and actually take some of your money or just your time and go to these networking events. We're going to be hosting a networking event soon. You can stay tuned for that one sometime in April, I guess. Go to networking events, meet up with people that are in the industry, watch YouTube, listen to podcasts, all these different things. Like you got to take time and invest. If you don't know stuff, then you can. It's the internet. We're literally typing to a computer right now, and it's telling us what to talk about on a freaking podcast.
Yeah.
So if you need to know, you can go online and figure it out. That's one thing. It's funny. It says start a side hustle. That's exactly what I said. Start selling drugs if you need to. No, I'm just joking. Don't do that. But I mean, those people get creative. Drug dealers. They're selling. They're making money. They're creative. I wouldn't suggest doing that, but you can sell other things. I mean, we sell.
Cars. You can sell
You could
cars.
flip cars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a cheap entry, right? You can buy a car for 5 grand, maybe sell it for 6.
I
Or
mean, we sell like HVAC systems to people. Like people call me and they're like, "Oh, hey, my HVAC's out. I know you're a contractor. You know people." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll get you a good discount." Somebody says, "Oh yeah, my quote was 8,000." I call my guy and I'm like, "Hey, can you give it to me for 6?" He says, "Yes." And I sell it to them for 7. I just made $1,000.
yeah, and they saved 1,000 too.
Right.
So
And they
it's a
saved
win-win for
1,000. So
everybody.
it literally just happened. That's like a story that just happened the other day. That's just like arbitrage, like finding somebody, making a connection, solving someone's problem, taking a little bit off the top. That's like just so easy. So start hustling. Don't sell drugs unless you have to. And then, it is what it is. But that is good advice right there. Look for a higher paying job. Yeah, I think a lot of people get comfortable, with just like what they're doing every day. They don't want to have to learn a new thing. They don't have to go meet new people, work in a new office, whatever.
That's the most dangerous thing about life is getting comfortable
I
at,
know.
a job that you're doing and doing every single day for the rest of your life.
That's why I love working for myself so much because there is no day that's the same. It's like, and there's no cap to how much I can make. So I think that's a big one too. Don't get comfortable. Get your ass up. Go apply for a better job. If it's in your industry, great. If not, go learn how to do something else. If like I was a teacher, I didn't really have any other skills. I went to college for teaching, so I just started something and it worked. You could go start something, or you could go to another industry. There's like, as long as you have some sort of experience, there's so many job opportunities right now. The job market is crazy. So I think that's go get a better job. I know it sounds like such a dick, like that I'm being such a dick, I feel like, but it's not. Like if you're just comfortable and you're making, $50,000 a year, there are jobs that are listed right now that are $70,000 a year, and you probably qualify. For something. I mean, it might be harder. You can go, if you're in an industry where it's really easy and that's what you're, trying to go for. Like I think one of the reasons that I did well during teaching, because teaching was so easy. Like I was a PE teacher. Like I could take time out of my day and do other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Or
that's
yeah, and people with remote jobs, like Sam, for example, he has a remote job and he's able to work a couple hours a day and pretty much focus on his real estate portfolio the other
there is a
part of the day.
there is a YouTube or Netflix or something called Overemployed, I believe, and it's all about people that have like 6 freaking remote jobs, and they just sit in front of like they'll have like 3 or 4 different computers, and they like work for like 3 different companies, and they're making like crazy money
Yeah.
because they're able to manage like working multiple jobs remote, which is pretty sick.
Mm-hmm.
But there's like if they can do that, then there's no excuse.
Yeah.
Remote work has opened up the Fiverr, all these things that you could just go on and be a contractor of sorts. Like, dude, I wonder. This is an idea we'll talk about with Marcus. We can get on Fiverr and literally use this video software that we just found to sell people reel editing
Yeah.
for $20 an hour and be like, send me your long form videos via YouTube and we'll cut them up into reels. And we just put it into the AI software and it cuts it up into perfect reels and we sell it.
Yeah.
It's genius. See?
I
am
with,
genius.
yeah.
That's why.
With ChatGPT and that they just mentioned, there's so many different ways to make
This
money
one,
just from
we'll,
that.
we'll tell people.
I mean,
we'll
if,
tell
if
the
I was
world.
in school right now, I'd be going crazy with ChatGPT, like writing essays for me and everything.
So video spelled VIDYO.ai. If you have a long form YouTube video, you just put the YouTube video into the software and it spits you out edited reels that you can post onto Instagram. I mean,
And it'll find the spots in the interview that have questions and it'll subtitle the questions at the top and then it'll start from that spot and the person in the video will answer that question.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. So it's funny. ChatGPT says get a promotion like that. Like people have the choice of how to increase your active. Get a promotion.
I mean, you can push for that stuff. That's things that you can, you work hard enough and you show them and you become valuable enough to where they can't let you go, and they have no other choice.
Yep.
If you're valuable enough, they're not gonna let you go.
This is true. So I put in here, what are some topics to discuss for a podcast that focuses on investing in real estate? So finding the right investment property. That's the first one that ChatGPT told me about. Strategies for identifying and evaluating potential investment properties, including analyze market trends, calculating potential returns, and performing due diligence. Yeah, I mean, obviously you gotta. So I think right now, a big thing is like you were saying, how you're running the numbers with 7.5. I think because the rates are just so crazy, and I think that's what the government seems to be doing and using to like get the market down, I guess. Maybe just bump in an extra quarter point or something when you're doing your due diligence, just because tomorrow the rates might go up again. Like, who knows? Financing your investment. I do feel like right now financing is probably going to be easy, like for the hard money side, because a lot of these hard money lenders that were used to people like you doing 5, 6, 10 houses at a time, they're probably hurting a little bit now. If you think about it, like all these investors are getting squeezed out. So the hard money lenders and all the money lenders are probably hurting.
Yeah.
They're going to have less money on the street. I would love to talk to somebody right now that owns a hard money company and just ask them, what their numbers look like now compared to a year and a half ago when everything was just firing.
Well, my private lender, he called me a couple of weeks ago and he wants to actually cut back on what he's lending because of the market, and he wants to like specifically just focus in on lending to me versus he lends to like maybe like 1 or 2 other people, and he said he just wants to cut back on that and just just focus on one.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about both.
But he obviously if you run it like a hard money business, and if it's a hard money business, then you're losing out on all the income that you were getting a year, 2 years, 3 years ago when everybody was going crazy buying a bunch of stuff. but
Right.
he has his own business and he just does the lending on the side.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great place to be. If you can be making, like we were talking about our buddy Sam, like if you could be making six figures and have like a little business on the side, either in lending or in, because a lot of these lenders are not lending out their own money either. They're lending out other people's money that they, syndicate together or whatever. But um, if you can have like a pretty good paying job and then this side hustle, it's a good place to be.
All right, so I got some questions here.
Sure.
I'm gonna ask these questions and we're both gonna answer them.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Number one. Where's the best place to invest in real estate?
Where?
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like area. You can just answer it in your way, however you want to
Yeah,
take it, and
I
I'll
think
answer it my way.
Okay, so I think your first investment, unless you're in a place that's like crazy and the prices like just don't make sense, I think your first investment or a first couple should be somewhere where you can go there. Personally, I think that. Like, I think you should be seeing the process, especially if you're doing a renovation, something local. Again, if you're in California, it might not work for you. You can't buy $1 million property. But if you're somewhere near a place that has affordable real estate, take down a deal where you can show up there, see the process, see what the contractors do, um, and just be involved so you can learn. I think that's really, really crucial. As far as the best places to be, like you need to find places that have a low barrier to entry, but still some sort of job market. Like I like to invest near hospitals, Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland. I mean that's the best place to be.
Yeah. So the best place for me is just any neighborhood that's has an ARV of 250 and less. And we're in the Baltimore market, so I look for neighborhoods that have ARVs between 200 and 250. Anything less, like 150 and less, I just feel like it's a war zone. Not all of them, maybe like 100,000 and less. It's a little bit more of a war zone. And then anything higher than 250, the cash flow is just not there for what you can get for rent. So that's my take on where to invest.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's easy for us to say because Baltimore is such an easy market to invest in. But you get to other places where houses are just like crazy expensive. Then it might make sense to leave your market and start buying somewhere else. You can contact us at pepropertymanagement.com, and we will hook you up with some investment properties. Um, so, what's another question? You got
Another
another question?
question. Okay. So in real estate investing, is owning real estate worth the headache?
Oh wow. Sometimes I question that. When I was on the phone at midnight on Saturday with a tenant who was locked out of her building and the electric lock wasn't working. That was a pain in the butt.
Is that the only way to enter it? Enter the building?
Yeah. So then immediately I like the next morning I texted Cody and I'm like, we need keys, backup keys at this building because it's a multifamily. So we have a code lock in the front. And then I was like YouTubing. I went, so I didn't wake up Paige. I went into the bathroom and I was YouTubing how to reset that specific lock. Because I was thinking the worst. The girl is like 23 years old. She's on North Charles Street, like locked out of her apartment. So, yeah, that was a headache. But is it worth it? Yes. We're both young. We're in our early 30s and we don't have a real job per se. And real estate could and does pay for our life the styles. I mean, yeah, of course it's worth it. What kind of question is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth the headache also. And even if it isn't, if you feel like you get involved in real estate and it's not worth the headache, you can always hire a property manager if you're buying rental properties to manage those properties for you. So even if it is a headache, if you're doing it, you could pass that headache to Ryan and he can handle that business for you.
Yeah, I think anybody long term that like has owned properties for 20 years, I don't think there's many people that would say I regret that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But then you do see occasionally, the tired landlord who's selling off
They're jaded.
their several
But I
dozen
think a lot of
portfolio and
You know what? I think a lot of that, a lot of the headaches too, and we're guilty of it too, and that's why we're switching some of our systems right now. It's just like management. Like if you have the systems in play that manage the properties for you, well, then there shouldn't be that many headaches. There's always going to be headaches, but that's with any kind of investment. I'd rather deal with a broken toilet than the stock market crashing. You
Yeah,
know,
because you have no control over
I have
that.
no control over that,
Yep.
right? At least with our buildings, like, we have brick boxes. We can fix them. If we're just fully invested into Coca-Cola and they fail, obviously that's a bad example because they're probably not going to fail. But you invest into these companies and COVID happens or whatever happens and the stock market crashes, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely worth it. Right now, you just got to be careful that you're buying stuff that makes sense. I think that's a big thing right now. If you're new, you just got to buy. You got to really either do some work to get a good deal
Yeah.
or
And
be.
let's just run through some of the headaches for people out there wondering like what is a headache when buying a real estate property in terms of like buying a rental property. So like a headache could be like you mentioned, a tenant calls for a clogged toilet, or an even bigger headache when you have an electronic doorknob and they can't get in at midnight,
Yeah,
and you're trying to figure it out and you feel super bad. I know you had to have felt super bad because you don't know, what to do if you don't know how to fix that lock remotely. Things like that. And then for me, I get, plumbing calls. I'll get the occasional HVAC call. Maybe a tenant doesn't change their filter out, and I'm dealing with a service call there. However, once you have people in place, like plumbers, HVAC people, and you can send them a text with the address, with the tenant's name and number, and they can coordinate it. Before, what I would do was I would, call or message the HVAC contractor, and then he'll tell me a day or time that he can come out there, and then I call the tenant and I had to schedule it with them, and then they're not available, so then I got to go back to the HVAC guy. So now anytime a service call comes in, I just text it right to the contractor and they coordinate the time. That way I don't have to go back and forth, and that's saves me a lot of headache and time.
yeah. I mean, like, I think a big part of people in the beginning, and I want to keep going back to people that are just starting out because the it's really hard to pay people to do everything in the beginning because those contractors are either not giving you the same, they're not going to give you the same deal if you're not giving them all that work, right? So if it's just a one off, like if you have to call the Len the plumber contractor person who's like a retail contractor because you don't have a Rolodex of contractors, well, then you might pay $500 to have a snake run down your tub when it
Mm-hmm.
would cost us $150, and now their cash flow for the entire month is gone.
Yeah.
So I think that's that's also tough. But that's a headache that you just kind of have to deal with. And I think one way to avoid these kind of headaches, what we do is all of our rental properties pretty much are fully renovated with new everything. I think that's one way to avoid a lot of headaches. And another way I think is to be present at your, like, show up, or at least we have people that, like, in our staff that will go to these places and make sure that they're taken care of. I think a lot of tenants just don't care and they just leave things to kind of go to shit, and you have to be, we try to go to our properties at least twice to four times a year just to check in.
Yeah. And to make sure that they're changing the filters.
Yeah.
Those things can burn out your HVAC, your furnace, and if they don't change it, it gets too dirty. It could shut the system down. Then you're paying a service call to the HVAC guy to go out there when it was something as simple as them, pulling out the filter and putting a new one in.
Yep. All right, what else we got, Nick?
What are the best strategies for making money in real estate?
Best strategies for making money. I think one is, and I'm biased because we have this, but like having a service-based business, I think that's the easiest way to make money. There's so many investors out there that need people to change their filters, or power wash the house, or paint the steps, or whatever. There are people that need people to do things. We have a lot of investors in that investor group that are constantly posting, need somebody to change out my carpet, need somebody to steam clean my carpet. You can easily find somebody in these groups that are looking to steam clean their carpet, and you can literally go to the local grocery store, rent a steam cleaner, and go steam clean their carpets and make money on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many services that you can provide, and I think that's step one. Like, we go back to making more money. Provide a service for somebody that needs it, do a good job, and you'll have another job.
Do they still rent those at grocery stores?
Yes, they do.
Nice. I remember seeing them when I was like a kid, like 10 years old. We had nothing but carpet in our whole entire house, even the kitchen and bathrooms had carpet. There wasn't a square foot in the house that didn't have carpet. I remember we used to go there and rent them from there.
Dude, there's a guy on TikTok, I forget his name, and Instagram, where he just knocks on doors and he sells window cleanings.
Oh yeah, I seen that one. Yep.
And he has like a couple of guys, probably two guys, that trail with the actual cleaning kit to clean the windows. And he just knocks on the door. He's a great salesman. Knocks on the door, tries to sell them window cleaning. They get the window cleaning sale. Then the guys come and clean the windows right then. And like, there's so many ways to make money. Real estate specific, wholesaling. You know, try to go get houses under contract. You can bird dog, they call it, just like driving around looking for old vacant houses. Look up the owner, call that owner. I mean, that's, you know, one way to do it.
Yeah. So I don't think there's like a best strategy, but as you mentioned, I think the quickest way would be wholesaling and then flipping. And then if you want to build obviously wealth over time, it would be long-term hold rental properties. That's like a slow growth, cash flowing $300 to $500 a month isn't going to get you rich overnight, but it'll get you wealthy over time.
Yeah. And I mean, if you just do it and stick to the plan, and you can have a plan and have the capital to buy, let's say 3 properties per year, and you're making an extra 500 per month on each one of those properties. Each year you're growing your income by $18,000. So that's like a good chunk to grow, and you only have to buy a couple of properties. You buy a couple of properties using hard money, and I bet you could do that with probably, you save up or you borrow like $100,000, and then you can use that $100,000 to put down payments with hard money lenders and start buying properties. You buy a couple properties that are making $500 a month, even if you have money left in the deal, you're making an extra $18,000 a year if you just keep that steady flow. That's like, easy.
So this next question, how much, and this will pertain to, let's say we're talking to people who are looking to buy maybe an investment property. How much money should they save up before buying that investment property?
I think one of the things is you have to find where you're looking. Like, are you looking at a place, like you said, as a $250,000 ARV? Because then I think you should have 20% of the deal and hope that at the end you have less than 10% in it. I think that's a pretty safe place to be. If you have 20% down, I would just say maybe 25% now, because we're not really getting a lot of 80%, LTV loans. So maybe 25 to 30% of the deal. So if you're trying to take down a deal where you're going to be all in it for like 150,000, what do you thinking? It's like 50 grand. Yeah. So if you're going to take down a deal for 150,000, I would say 45,000 you have liquid 45,000.
Yeah. So that's if you bought it like the conventional route, right? And
Well, no, even if I was just saying like safely,
just in case something went wrong, you didn't get the appraisal that you wanted if you did do the BRRRR method.
Yeah, if you didn't get the appraisal or something came up on the construction or something, you don't want to be, caught with your pants down on your first deal. So you have a $150,000 house, you have $45,000 liquid. At the end, hopefully you only have 15,000 or whatever stuck in the deal, and you get your $30,000 and you can go on to the next deal.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it always varies, obviously, but I think a minimum would be 20 grand, and that's very bare minimum. When I bought my first deal, I had 30 grand in the bank, and the hard money lender needed to see that I had 30 grand in the bank at that particular moment. So that's where I started. And even if a lot of hard money lenders, they'll lend, 90% of the purchase price, 100% of the construction. However, when they do the construction, as you know, they do draws. So you need to you need to have enough to cover that first third of the project anyway. So 30 to, I would say 50,000 is a good starting point.
Like I said, too, 30 to 50 grand is not that hard to save up if you do something extra. Cut down on some expenses, do something extra, and you'll have 50 grand before you know it. I think that's,
Ryan just rolls around in money. He wakes up every day, 50 grand on his pillow.
But to go out and get a second job, if you're making 50 grand and that's paying your bills, and you can go get a second job, you can get a second job you're making 20, easy. and
Yeah.
you'll have 20 saved up in a year.
And I think it goes back to like cutting back on things that you don't need. And maybe it might be hard for you individually to determine what you don't need. Maybe ask a friend or a family member, like, hey, do you see me spending money where I don't need to be spending it? Maybe they can point it out better than you can see it.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's all about what you're willing to cut in your life too. Like Tyler literally is trying to move into the basement of our office and live in our office so he doesn't have to pay for a place to live because he's been living for free for the last 5 years in one of our properties.
Yeah.
And we're selling that property and now he's trying to live he's like, I'll just live in the basement of the office. I'm like, I don't want you living in a troll den.
Does anyone else live there with him?
No.
So he pretty much lives for free at that house that you guys have?
Yep.
Nice.
Got a pretty good deal. Yeah, so that's on our list, but you got to be willing to sacrifice. That's kind of what was my point there. It's like Tyler has, a bunch of houses and the apartment above our office is vacant and he can easily move in there. But he's like, "No, let's just rent that out and I'll just live in the basement." He's like, "I don't need much."
And that's the thing, like live below your means, right? Like I live below my means and there's nothing wrong with that. People, you see people on social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, flashing all these fancy things. And, the reality is, the more you can put that off, the better off you'll be in the long run.
Yeah, I've been putting off buying a new truck for a while, and every time I go test drive one, I really love one, and then I'm like, God, my truck is paid off, and it's just so nice not having any kind of payment. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, you know what, I can last a little bit long. I can last a little bit longer. Then I just keep pushing it back, but it's fun because then we can go and kind of like do fun vacations. Like we're going down to Florida. I rented a sick house. We rented a boat. Like all that stuff then doesn't matter because I don't have to worry about my next car payment. I don't have to worry about my next mortgage payment or whatever. Those things are crucial, paying off debts that are kind of like huge liabilities in your life and really just focusing in on making more money and not spending it like an idiot. What else you got there? What are some of the biggest blind spots in real estate investing? What do you mean by that?
What are some of the biggest blind spots in real estate? So what are some of the biggest things that I guess people don't realize?
You didn't even come up with this question.
Oh, I did now. So let me reiterate it. So the biggest blind spots, it could be, like you getting into real estate and you not knowing what's ahead of you until you get there. And then you're like, it's a brick wall in front of your face that you have to break down or climb over. So something that you don't see, something that a new person wouldn't see 4 steps ahead because maybe they're just focusing on just finding that deal.
Yeah, I think a big one is bad appraisals and contractors and finding issues with houses that, like a lot of people, I know a lot of people don't like when I charge them for estimates, but when they don't have houses that they own or have it under contract, I charge them to come out and like estimate things because they try to get me to come out and they're like, can you give me a price on this so I know if I want to buy it or not?
Yeah,
like
you have to value your time. So,
but I think a lot of people walk through a house and say, oh, $30,000, we should be able to do this whole thing. And they don't have any idea that $30,000 gets them just the HVAC system and plumbing.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I actually just turned down a job for a 203K loan job that they had a $30,000 budget and the house needed $100,000 for the work. And she's like, oh, we're just going to do this, this, and this. And I just told them, I was like, I'm not going to do this job because I know what is going to happen is going to be, we get to tear this kitchen out and we find that this, and this is wrong. And then we need to do this, but you can't afford to do this because you only have $30,000. And so I turned down the job because I was just like, this is a thing that you thought your agent told you that you could renovate this house for $30,000.
Yeah,
it's $100,000.
Thing. Like real estate agents aren't real estate investors, and there's a lot of real estate agents that know nothing about real estate investing. So you really have to be cautious when you're, discussing that with certain,
especially when your agent tells you, "Oh, this bathroom will only cost you $5,000 to renovate," because they saw on TikTok that somebody renovated a bathroom for $5,000. I'm like, yeah, sure. If you're doing all the work yourself, maybe.
Yeah. So I think the greatest blind spot when it comes to real estate investing is cash flow. A lot of people, they think cash flow is your monthly rental income minus your mortgage, taxes, insurance, when in reality, you have to account for those maintenance calls, the turnover cost when a tenant moves out, the loss of rent when a tenant moves out while you're turning it over. The capital expenditures are huge. If you buy a house that's maybe already rented and the HVAC system is 15, 20 years old, well, you're going to want to calculate that into your budget in the near future because that may cost you thousands of dollars that you didn't account for. Same with water heaters, roofs,
Yeah.
a lot of those things, and plumbing. If it's old cast iron plumbing, that's a lot of expenses that will add up quickly.
Yep. Yep. I just another thing, ChatGPT. This is so cool. Like I just typed in how are some ways, or here are some ways. I don't know, what did I type? How to increase cash flow in your rental portfolio, and it just gives you just ideas, a couple ideas, to increase cash flow. Like this is why I love ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So a couple ways that you can increase cash flow in your rental portfolio. One, raise rents. Obviously, everybody has mixed feelings about how to raise rent on tenants that are living there. I think after a certain while, you kind of do have to raise them, especially now because a lot of houses are getting reassessed, taxes are going up, expenses are going up. You kind of have to raise the rents.
So at what point, let's talk about this for a second. At what point do you raise rents?
I think if you give them the notice, like I think the best thing to do is tell them in the beginning of their lease when the rent is going up. And I think if 24 months of stable rent is fair, and then do an increase after 24 months. You do it after 12 months, and then people are more likely to leave. But if they're already there for 2 years, if they're going to stay, they're going to stay. If it's an extra, 3-4%, oh, I get people upstairs now. If it's extra 3-4%, then I'm like, gonna stay.
Yeah. So I tend to leave the rent increases to the turnover. So if a tenant moves out, that's when I'll increase the rent on that particular property and not on the person itself or their self because I don't want to, upset someone if I did increase the rent after a year or maybe 2 years. And then maybe if they had the thought in their head that they want to leave after 2 years, but they were on the fence about it. And then I tipped that by asking them to pay more in rent now. And then that kind of made it the decision to move out potentially. So if they're good paying tenants and they pay on time every single month and they've been there for 1 year, 2 years, I'm going to keep it the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, most of mine are the same. I do like to increase it every once in a while just because I'd rather increase it just a tiny bit a couple of times over if they're living there 4 or 5 years than after 4 years saying, it's going up this much.
Yeah, but the person doesn't know though because it's a brand new person. You know what I mean?
No. You're right with what you're doing when you're turning over. But if somebody's been there for 5 years and I just got a notification that my taxes are going up, and every time I send a contractor, it goes everything's more expensive. After 5 years, I mean, you gotta pay a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I'm coming up on 5 years of just owning real estate, so I'm not there yet. So
Yeah,
maybe
no,
once I get to that point where I have a tenant for 5 years, I'm gonna probably tell them. Although not lately, but over the last maybe year or so, I think, 2 of the properties that I bought, they had tenants and they were very low rent. One was in Dundalk, it was rented out for $12.50, and they were living there for 9 years. And I just found out that a house 2 doors, like probably like 2 or 3 doors down, is rented for $2,000, and it's set up the same exact way. And I'm like, man, I'm losing out, but I'm also like, want to look out for the tenant who's been there a long time. Don't just want to just kick them out of that. So I raised it $100 to $13.50, but I still feel like I'm losing out on a little bit of extra money.
Yeah, next year, and just tell them like this is why we have to do this, and if you say after the next 12 months it's going to go up again, and after the next 12 months after that it's going to go again. So like if this is something that you need to plan on, then
yeah,
plan on it.
And here's another one that I bought a few years back. The tenant was in place. He's paying $1,200 a month now. My average rent in the area is $1,600. This is a house in Pigtown. And I'm like, look, he started asking for like updates and stuff. I'm like, look, if we update your house, we're gonna have to bring it to market. And he's like, I'm fine with that. I'm like, all right, great. So I'm calculating like how much money I'm gonna put into the property. Maybe I'll put in 10 grand to renovate it, and he's gonna be paying $300 more. So I'll take 300 times 12 divided by, $10,000, and I'll get a cash on cash return on that. Pretty good cash on cash return for that little rehab to get that extra $300 a month.
Yeah, 300 for 10 grand is great.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. reduce vacancies. This is a problem that we have in the winter time here. We had so many vacancies this winter that just came to market at a bad time. That's a huge one to increase your cash flows, reduce vacancies, get properties listed on all the different platforms to do that. Make sure you're posting it on Facebook groups and whatever else to get people in there. Offer your tenants if they are moving out. Like I have a thing with my tenants that if they're moving out, especially the Hopkins people, and they can find a person to replace them, I give them a little bit of a stipend, a little bit of money, so I don't have to worry about a month's mortgage payment with no rent. Cutting expenses, so just anything that you're spending money on. Like I think a big thing is charging people for water, making sure that you're charging people for water bills on time, and if you have like, I don't know, what other kind of expenses, I guess, for somebody that's just managing their own properties.
Just making sure that if it's a single family house or a townhouse or just a single unit, that they cover the ground maintenance on the exterior and make sure that that's upfront.
Yep.
When you sign the lease with them.
Yep. Reducing energy usage if you pay for the the electric and stuff like that.
And I have a 3-unit. When I bought it, it had washer and dryer hookups, but the tenants that were living in there didn't have washer and dryers, and the previous owner was paying the water bill. So when I bought it, I kind of just closed off the washer and dryer hookups because I'm still covering the water bill, and that's saving an expense. Because if I allowed them to have washer and dryer and I'm still paying the water bill, then it's just an expense that's going up on my end.
Right. Yeah. Improve property management. That's a good one. Just making sure that you're reducing monies at turnover, minimizing delinquencies by picking good tenants, streamlining operations. Picking good tenants will save you a lot of money. That's a big one. We have bad tenants that cost you a lot of money in repairs. They cost you money in not paid rent. So
So what are some red flags to look out for when screening a tenant to avoid a bad tenant?
One, I look at bank statements. I love bank statements more than anything else. We've said this probably 1,000 times on this podcast, but obviously the credit report, criminal history, and really looking at their credit to see if they have collections, meaning that they let things get all the way into collections, like they didn't pay something for that long that it went into collections, and making sure that their income matches what's going into their bank account. So if they show me a pay stub that's $2,000, that weekly I should see on their bank statement $2,000 being deposited weekly.
Yeah, and that's so huge. That's exactly what I do. I ask for 2 months pay stubs and 2 months bank statements to, as you mentioned, match it up. Because you can there's people out there that create fake pay stubs all the time. And if you're not good with looking at these things, you can easily overlook a fake pay stub and accept a tenant that could potentially have made that pay stub up.
Yep, absolutely. Renovate or upgrade properties just so you can get more rent. That makes sense, obviously. Add more rentals to your portfolio. Yes, that will actually do it too by buying more properties. Refinance or sell underperforming properties. I think you should all we're getting ready to sell one now because it appreciated a lot. We have no prepayment penalty. Where the equity that we're pulling out of it is significant, and it makes more sense to move it into another property that will cash flow more. Mm-hmm. So, you have to look at your portfolio every once in a while. Maybe you got to sell something. Consider short-term rentals another way to increase your cash flow. Yeah, sure, but it's definitely more management too, so be prepared for that. A little bit more pain in the butt dealing with all those people short-term. But that's all I got today. That was a good hour playing with ChatGPT here, getting another YouTube episode out. So that's one thing. Please go to the Everyday Millionaire Show on YouTube. Follow us. We're trying to grow that channel. Instagram, we're going to be posting more on Instagram, and follow us.
Yeah, and for anyone looking to come to our event, it's going to be next month. We don't have an exact date, but stay tuned for that. It'll be fun. Yeah, and we'll send out more details as they come in.
Yeah, and reach out to us on social medias if you have a good topic or somebody that's an interesting person that's successful that'd like to get on the show. Hit us up, message us, and maybe we can make it happen. All right, guys. Another week, and Nick. Hopefully, this week will be another good one in the market for us.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
next time.